you are playing as the villain, right? But the game pretends that you are the good guy, even though everything you do in the game is like pure evil. Like, that's why it's so bad, too, because you're playing the game and you're like, I'm pretty sure I'm the bad guy. Isekai. Who is the most evil protagonist in Isekai? Because of course, on this channel here, we talk a lot about Isekai animes and so on, right? And as well, of course, obviously a lot of shonen stuff, and like next season looks crazy, as we saw Bleach coming back, and so on. But otherwise, the shonen, right, Isekai is a huge topic on this channel. Right? Let's be honest here, because that's like the most popular anime genre after shonen. And last year's, I think, easily the best anime was, of course, Mushoku Tensei, right? So the question I have for many years is, who is the most evil protagonist in Isekai? And I mean actually evil. I don't talk about, you know, pretend to be a bad boy who's a nice person, or even worse, like Diablo in, it's like, oh, look at me, I'm all evil, but actually he's a loser, you know, whatever, right? And, you know, surrounded by his Genki harem and so on. No. Who is the actual most evil protagonist ever? Actually, Marche from a Final Fantasy game. You thought it was going to be Tanya? I mean, Tanya is evil, but she is no Marche, okay? So Marche is the protagonist in a Final Fantasy game that probably no one's ever played. So I hope you guys are gonna like this video, subscribe if that's alright, because I'm gonna explain the storyline of this Final Fantasy spin-off game that I feel no one ever played again, right? And this is like the worst storyline they ever written, and you're seriously playing as the worst person ever in a fantasy game. So you know me, guys, right? I love isekais, I love shonen and so on, right? I think there's two main things, and maybe a little teasing goes, right? But honestly though, think about it, in Nagatoro, the main character, right, Senpai, is actually voiced by Deku, right? So it feels very shonen to me, and it's kind of shonen rom-com, right? But seeing a lot of isekai over the years, right, this still is that to this day, right, the game I played as a kid, FFTA, it was released in 2003. So that's the worst main character, worst protagonist ever. And honestly, I find it really hilarious because, of course, the game is written as you being the good guy. But you aren't! You're a complete villain. And it's just like, he's the worst. He's worse than Tanya. But that's what I spent a little bit, some backstory here. People aren't, because a lot of people haven't played this game, right? And I think it's very interesting just how terrible it is, especially with the context I'm giving you now. So, first of all then, FFTA, right? Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced, obviously a spin-off of Final Fantasy, right? The biggest JRPG ever. And Tactics is spin-off itself, right? So, first of all, FFT is the spin-off to release FF7, which is the strategy side point, right? And then this game is a spin-off of the spin-off, right? So it's like a sequel to that spin-off. But immediately, right, FFT has an amazing storyline, okay? And that, of course, is an isometric game. This is how FFTA looks, which is, of course, based on Tactics Ogre, right? And this is very important to understand here, because Tactics Ogre is this amazing, arguably the greatest strategy game, or I would even say before, arguably the best game to Super Nintendo. This game is amazing, especially from a writing standpoint, okay? It is an amazing master. And you know, games like Tactics Ogre, right, has inspired these kind of games, like Triangle Strategy and so on, which is, you know, a very similar isometric game, right? And we have other games like the Sky and so on as well, right? So, you know, I really love this game. And another thing is important, right? So you might see in the shirt I'm wearing is FF12. So Final Fantasy 12, which is again the shirt I'm wearing right now, right? It's arguably the best Final Fantasy game ever, and this takes place then in called Ivalice, which is then the isekai they actually get inside of FFTA. And Ivalice, for that matter, is actually created in Vagrant story, which is again then arguably also like the best games ever made, PlayStation 1, which is it's a truly amazing game. Both these games have 4040 Famitsu, done by honestly my idol as a kid, you know, Yasumi Matsuno, which is an amazing game. Another thing you might recognize is the art here, right? It's done by my favorite artist of all the epic artists, because the game it is, Akihiko Yoshida, which has done, of course, Tactics Ogre then. Ogre Battle is the first game, right? Tactics Ogre, FFT, FFTA, and of course, I think much more famous now when coming into what people probably recognize these days, right? Nier, right? You know, this is like, ooh, yeah. So he's behind, you know, 2B, right? He's behind Kane. So, you know, he's behind all this kind of stuff, right? And so this artist is truly, I think he's done amazing all over the years, right? And I made the context here because I think people probably played Nier, right? See the context here, right? Because I think people have probably played Nier, right? Has have a Nier replicant, right? Nier, of course, Automata is a very, very popular game, right? With, you know, 2B and so on. Kane, of course, replicant. And these games have an amazing storyline, right? They have different paths, different thing. Am I the good guy? Am I the bad guy or whatever, right? And you know, they're very, very good games, especially from a story aspect, right? And that is why I keep saying it here. I've been story. Don't worry, guys. I won't put the hook anymore. But I just want to point out the context, right? How basically every game they have made otherwise, right? Again, Ogre Battle has an amazing storyline. It has like 16 different endings. Text Ogre had this really interesting path thing and so on. Those are amazing. Vagrant story has a very interesting philosophy and this like mind thing, and you're actually the bad guy kinda, you don't know who you are, and so on, right? I want to spoil it here. FF12 again, right, has a very interesting storyline, and so on. So all these games have an amazing story, and of course obviously Nier then, which is very, very famous now, right? Or, you know, huge, important, very, very famous games now, especially for the storyline and for the sexy ass, right? But you get my point. But this game then has like the worst storyline I think I ever played in my life. It is a truly garbage storyline, and you are playing as the villain, right? But the game pretends that you are the good guy, even though everything you do in the game is like pure evil. Like that's why it's so bad, too, because you're playing the game and you're like, I'm pretty sure I'm the bad guy, right? And that's why I went with video. I'm thinking about this for years. I'm like, you know, when you play this game, right? Like, aren't you the bad guy? Aren't I like torturing my brother? Didn't I just kill my girlfriend there? You know, like you basically think all the time, like, I'm pretty sure that I am the super bad guy. Let's talk about the actual story then, right? The story is basically non-existing, and that's why it's so important. I think it is. So let's talk about the actual story then. Now I have the context here. These people have made basically, I think, some of the best JRPGs ever, right? There are tremendously great games, and this game then takes place, they're isekai into, right? Final Fantasy Ivalice, literally isekai into FF12. The game was released before 12 then, right? And they're basically reading a book, so they get inside of FF12 basically, right? But actually it's kind of a Vagrant story, how they said. Whatever. But this is my point, right? And that's it basically. Like there is no other storyline. Like this, the game has like almost no storyline. You get to use isekai, you know. Very, very basic anime, right? And we're stuck in a video game with video game rules. And the basic only premise storyline has is that Marche wants to go home again. He just wants to go out of the isekai fantasy world. He wants to go back into Earth, right? And that's, in a sense, I have to say, is kind of rare, right? Almost in all isekais, the character is like a, you know, a loser, neat or whatever, right? Or maybe they had a very successful life, so they die, you know, they save someone and they die, right? And then they get into the new fantasy world, where they can now have a harem or whatever, live a good life. You know, or they are like Rudy, right? That he, you know, he has a bad life, he's a neat again, right? He has bullied and so on, he goes in the isekai world, and he can grow as a character and so on, right? So it's very important for them, you know, to usually have pretty bad life, right? In the normal world. That's like a very, very stereotypical isekai, right? And then have a better life, of course, in the isekai world. And usually, they don't want to go back home, right? Because why would I go back home? Here I have 7 wives, right? And everything is fine, adventure and so on, right? And I think it's very important to put out here, and again, this game has almost no storyline, right? The main character is incredibly focused on going back home. But what is the backstory then, right? What is the backstory before in that world? I'm trying not to laugh here, I'm not to be sarcastic here, because this literally is one of the most tragic settings for an isekai I've ever seen. Again, right, most anime have a tragic setting for an isekai, but it's way worse. So, you're living in the ghetto, your brother is permanently disabled, he can barely move his body, right? He's permanently in a wheelchair, and he's like, he can never walk, all this stuff, right? He hates life and so on, right? Your girlfriend has some kind of albino thing, so she has dyed her hair red and so on. She's being bullied as, you know, a witch on elf like Emilia or whatever. Everyone hates her, you're like an only friend, and she's beautiful, but, you know, she can't have no pigment, and she has some kind of disability too, right? Your other friend is also living in the ghetto with you, and his father is like a drunk or whatever and so on. So you have like a terrible, terrible life. You get physically abused by bullies all day long, right? And you're literally living in this like terrible world, and it's much worse. And again, like everyone except you are basically disabled in this world, right? Like all your friends and so on, your family, your girlfriend and so on, they have disabilities. They have disability. Of course, I explain the storyline here, because this is the whole storyline, right? They have terrible life. I said, typical isekai, right? But worse than it usually is. But then, of course, when you get into the Final Fantasy isekai world, right? When they get into Ivalice, when they get transported to the other world, right? Typical isekai, they all get cured. So your brother, right, that is permanently in a wheelchair, he's like, you know, hardcore paralyzed, right? He can move like he's 2 arms on his head or something, right? He's, you know, he's paralyzed his birth, right? or whatever, he can move and fight and everything. So he's like, oh my god, living in this fantasy world, in this other universe is awesome for me, because I can, I can be outside here and enjoy the world, right? And the main character, again, the Marche, being the most evil text ever, he's just like, shut up, brother! You're going back home! So I'm not making this joke here. Like, he hates his brother. His brother's like, please don't bring me back to Earth, but I can't walk and I'm disabled. And the main character is like, no, shut up, So basically, no one wants to go back home, right? Everyone is happier in this world. Your best friend is happier, your girlfriend is happier. No one wants to go back to Earth. Like, it doesn't make any sense because, as I said, they're all disabled, right? Like, they're all living in the ghetto. You have a terrible life. You're the poorest kid in the city, right? You're living in this, like, this slum or something, right? Of, London or whatever it's supposed to be. And, again, you're getting harassed and bullied all the time. And I mean, like, viciously beaten up and so on, right? By bullies and so on. Life is shit, right? Your best friend's father is, like, alcoholic or whatever. He beats his kid or whatever, right? Like, the story is terrible, yeah. Like, it's one of the worst isekai, like, backstory settings ever, right? And again, especially your brother, which is like permanently disabled and so on, he really wants to stay, of course, in this world because he's just like, in this world I can, walk and so on. I can actually be alive, And your girlfriend then, she's turned into this like, she's playing with the and your girlfriend then, right? She now has a natural hair color, right? And she's kind of like playing with these various, the kind of elf people in that world. If I haven't played the Ivalice games, it's like Fran, you can see in my shirt here, she's like this bunny girls, right? So your girlfriend is basically part of their bunny clan guild or whatever, right? Now she's like beautiful and this stuff, and she can move her body normally, and she doesn't have her, disability anymore and so on. So going to this world, right, it cures disabilities of all your friends and family and your everyone or like cure disabilities. Your best friend's father is now, a judge, and he's like, he's an alcoholic or whatever, and he has a job and so on. So it basically cures everyone's, like, issues in life, right, being in this new world, except that some of the bad guys, they also got teleported, and they're like zombies or whatever, you kill them. But everyone else is like a much, much better life, right? And the whole storyline, and this is truly why Marche is the worst isekai planet ever, or most evil one, is that there is no storyline. But the whole storyline basically is that, oh, I want to go back home. That is the only storyline. I'm not making a joke here. There is no other storyline. Like, there is basically no other context to it. Like, every story aspect is that you go around and beat the crap out of your friends and family members. I'm not making this joke. This game has, again, arguably, the worst story I've ever seen in my life. And that's why I want to give you context earlier, right? Because this is seriously from... I mean, sure, it's probably worked on some other people, right? It's probably not worked by the same authors that have written Nier and so on, right? Or FFT or whatever. It's probably done by, like, their, spin-off, lower quality colleague people. Or probably is, but still though, right? This is a spin-off from, like, the most, arguably the best writers, so to speak, or cases like, again, Nier and so on, right? And the artists, of course, are involved in it, yeah. So they're involved to some extent, right? And it's baffling, right? How they have made, I would say, arguably some of the best games ever made, right? Especially from a story aspect, like a story, again, also a main story, so on, right? And they made all those games, and then they made this game. You're like, what is the storyline? There is a storyline. Storyline is you get isekai, and then you literally just go around and beat the crap out of your family members and force them to go back home. That is the only storyline. There's nothing in between that. I mean, I wasn't making a joke here. There basically is no... There's a lot of dialogue, right? But the dialogue mostly is just like, oh, here's our dragon or whatever. Yeah, there's not much storyline between, because you basically just create a guild, and then you have your guild, and then you have to defeat other guilds, right? In like guild wars or whatever. And by defeating the guilds, you can then basically force them to go back to your world. Like, that's literally what you do, yeah. Because your brother and your girlfriend, so on, right? They have their own guilds, right? So you go around and basically defeat their allies, and then you like beat the crap out of your brother. So you force him to go back when he's disabled in like a permanent in a wheelchair. He's like, I want to go back home. I hate you, Anisha. Like, shut up! And you kick his ass and you throw him into the portal, yeah. And your girlfriend is like, no, my body is so I'm disabled, and I can't grow this thing, and my body doesn't work correctly in that world. Shut up, because the writing is trying to make you be likable, right? Because the main character is like, oh, but I love you even if you're ugly and disabled and so on, right? And she's like, yeah, that's great, but what if I stay in this world and I am not disabled and I'm beautiful? You can love me as beautiful. And I'm not making this joke. This writing is so bad that, you know, your girlfriend is like, we can get married, we can have a kid, you know, we can live here in peace, and I understand that you love me because you keep trying to kill me or my sisters or whatever. She's basically adopted into this like a bonding girlfriend, yeah. So she's like, you're fighting my sister's family thing and you're hurting my friends or whatever. But she's like, I understand you're doing that from like a love aspect, and you want to prove to me that you love me even though I was ugly and disabled and so on. She's like, I accept that. So she's literally like, I accept that. Let's just, you know, be together in this world. Let's stay in Ivalice, right? We can get married and have kids and everything, and I can stay here, right? Not being disabled, and we can be happy. And the maker's like, no, I love you when you're disabled. You're like, do you have a fetish for that? Like, seriously, just say that. But you kind of like, wait, like, because she basically is like, she basically is saying that she understands that he always loved her, right? Even if, yeah, you know, she was an ugly disabled woman in the older world, basically, right? But she's like, that's great, but now I'm, yeah, again, but she's like, but now I'm beautiful. Why can't I stay beautiful for her? You know? He's like, go back, shut up, woman, and get ugly again. And she's like, I don't want to get ugly. But you beat the crap out of her and her best friend, her like new sister or whatever, yeah. You beat the crap out of her and forced her to go back and so on. And it's so weird too because basically, right, your girlfriend, she is, as I mentioned, right, she's been adopted by this like the bunny girl race, right, you know. So they love her and like she's her sister now and she's best friends with them and you know, oh, she's like my sister, my mom and so on, right. So she's really happy in this world, right? Because she got like a new mom and sister. I don't know, they only have females, but I believe in their race, right? And they did that game, so she got like 2 moms or whatever. But what cares, right? She's basically happy living with them, right? You think about that too, right? In most isekais, right? The character go to this world and you're happy. I mean, think about it, right? When most characters in isekai, they're actually happy in the new world, right? They look at Rudy, probably the best example, right? He has all these, you know, issues, right, in the previous world. Now he's more happy, right? You know, yes, it's a stressful world, but you know, living with his new family and friends and so on makes him happier, right? You know, isn't Rimuru happier as, you know, super happy Rimuru and so on? Yeah, maybe perhaps he's someone. I mean, he's happier. He would never admit it. Mao is also happier, right? You know, is he going right now this season? Subaru, I guess, is the person that, I mean, yes, he has a lovable Emilia, which makes him happy, I guess, but also his life is really painful. But the rest of them are happier, right? You know what I mean? For some examples, right? So that thing I think it's important to think about too, right? Where, again, your girlfriend, your brother, your best friend, all these people and all people, they're all happy in this world, right? You know? They're happier because now they have a new family, they have new friends, new love interest, right? And so on. And they're all happy with it, you know? Like, again, like, for example, she's part of this, you know, bunny girl family, right? And aren't they gonna miss her too, right? When you beat the crap out of her and force her to go back to Earth? Like, that's our sister now. We've been living here for a few years together now, whatever, right? And, you know, we're best friends, sisters, or whatever. We shared meals and, I don't know, it's a lot of Yuri undertones in that, especially that 12 too. No, but that race of bunny girls I'll show you an image here. So in the original games of Ivalice, right, the first 3, the Veiras, the bunny chick girls, they only had females. And now in the later games, they kind of also introduced men or whatever, but honestly in the first games, like in this game, it was never really explained how they even reproduced, except that they were like Amazons and had, you know, intercourse with other men with races or whatever. But basically, there's certainly some Yuri lesbian undertones, right, in the storyline, because, yeah, she's like, oh, she's a part of our family now, and they're all lesbians, right, because they don't have any men. But putting that out, right, not to be like, oh, yeah, Yuri, but more so in the sense, again, right, that she's like, it's part of our family, we love her, and so on, right, she's like, I love this, is my best friend, my sister, so on, but, you know, she's part of the kind of Amazonian bunny girl tribe, right, and she's basically one of them in their, like, you know, I don't know, lesbian country or whatever, you know. But seriously, right, if you ignore that she still kind of likes Moss for whatever reason, she kind of like, okay, whatever, let's get married with him, right? That is important to think about. Yeah, think about it, yeah. Like, she's like, probably it's kind of implied that she has, you know, somewhat is bisexual or whatever, right? Because she's part of their, yeah, Yuri nation and so on. And, you know, she's happy living in their, you know, tribe and, you know, maybe doing some bunny, you know, whatever. Some bunny senpai. No, but to get my point, she's like, yeah, and then he's gonna force her back to Earth when she can't anymore be with her, like, her girlfriend or something, right? It's just all this weird stuff, right? But the brother is probably the worst part, because the brother is like, yeah, in a wheelchair, disabled, you defeat him, he's like, I don't want to go back on Isha, like I said earlier, that is serious and so on, right? The only thing that is redeeming for Marche is that his best friend has kind of like somehow rewritten the world, right, to his image, so he's like the emperor in a thing. That's the only thing I can at least see the Marche a little right. That he also rewrote that he has all the power or something. But not really, but a little bit there, yeah. Like they have the power in this world. So that's like the only thing I can see that maybe this could be good to stop him from being the emperor or something like that. Or the judge thing with his father. Maybe it's a little bit weird. So corruption there perhaps. But with other character, brother, girlfriend and so on, it makes no sense. Their life is just like 100 times worse on Earth. They don't want to go back, right? No one wants to go back. His best friend also want to go back for many reasons, right? And in the end of the day, it really is badly written because it makes no sense that Marche wants to go back either, right? His world is way worse. His life is way worse in the first world, right? Like with most of the characters. So it just makes no sense, right? And I really do think that he is worse than Tanya, right? Because Tanya is like, well, I died in that world and God hates me and I want to go back. And the thing is that while Tanya kills a lot of people, even though the main Marche does kill a lot of people in FFT, he has a lot of wars in that game too. He's basically just running around. Honestly, they're very similar because the whole game storyline is that you're running this guild, right? In this guild wars. So you're basically just running around killing everyone else, right? In this guild wars for like a few months or whatever. Because the game has like no storyline. You're just running around killing people. So seriously, they're kind of similar, yeah. The game is just like a war storyline, right? For the whole game, right? But and also again with no motivation. You're doing it because you hate being in this world. You want to force everyone backward. But the thing is that Tanya, as I mentioned earlier, she or he and whatever actually wants to not be in the war. Tanya's always trying to be like, oh, actually I want to be over there when it's like there's no war. Tanya is always trying, to kind of get away from having a death chance, right, and failing, and it's part of the comedy. But Marche is like actively just going around hunting his family members or whatever to be like forcing them back to Earth. So no, he is way worse. And again, he's not even motivated. He doesn't even want to go back himself either. He's just like, oh yes, I agree, the world, Earth is way worse, but it's where we come from. So he is, I think, undeniably the worst, most evil isekai protagonist ever. It is crazy how he's just pure evil. And the thing is that when you play in this game, right, and I mean the game has very little storyline, I imagine, right, but it's so weird too because you play in the game and every story aspect, right, when you're defeating your different friends and families and so on, it's basically one arc per person, right, killing their allies and then killing them, whatever. And every time it's just like, they're all like, please don't do this, I don't want to go back. Shut up, go back home. And you're like, I don't like it. And you play the game and you're like, why am I doing this for? No one wants, like, why? And this is so weird written because, as I mentioned, right, if you said the author of this game, right, they're writing it and presenting it, no, but you're the good guy, right? You're like, how am I the good guy? You're like, how am I the good guy? I can't relate to this at all. Well, he hates everyone. Like, he's so dislikable, the main character. He's so dislikable. And his friends, right, Mont Black, or he's the only characters in the dialogue around him, are all like, why do you want to go back home? Don't you like us? Aren't we friends? Yeah, you're my best friend, Mont Blanc. You're like, okay, why does he want to leave him then? But like, going back to Earth, it's like, you gotta force them all back. So, like, everyone around him is also like, maybe you should stop killing your friends? No! Like, I'm not even making this up. It feels like almost every dialogue in the game, everyone disagrees with him. They're always like, why are we doing this thing again? I mean, it's one thing that they want to have the wars, right? They want to have this guild war and conflict and so on. So they're kind of in on that part, right? Your friends in your side, your new friends in the world, in the Isekai world, they're with you in that way, right? Because they do want to have a war, they want to win the war. But generally speaking, the whole personal conflict and so on, they're all against you. They're like, why are we doing this again? Don't you like us? And do you hate your brother? Like, why do you want to send him back when he's like permanently disabled? He's dreaming or something. His only motivation is he's like, this is a dream. I don't care. This is stupid fantasy. I hate fantasy or something. So, but anyway, he's the worst. He's seriously he's the worst person ever. And I think it's again interesting, right? How basically every other game they ever made in this franchise and the similar, the mega story and so on in the same game world are all like masterpieces. They're all like 40 out of 40 Famitsu games. They are insanely good games, and then this game is like the worst shit ever. I'll say one thing good about the game itself though. The actual gameplay is pretty good though, yeah. I mean, it's this classic isometric chessboard game, right? You have your characters, it's like FT and so on. But yeah, the game is actually, I mean, the storyline is absolute shit, right? But the game is actually pretty fun to play. The judge system can be annoying to some extent, but you learn to use it kind of fun. And the character classes and how you develop characters, like the job system combined with that, it actually is pretty good, and you have to use reflective and so on. So the actual gameplay is really fun when it was released. And it was of course a Game Boy Advance game, the first version of it. So it was like portable. And so I played it a lot, you know. You could play it on the train or bus or whatever. So yeah, so it's a really addictable game when it was from a pure gameplay aspect, right? Yeah. But the writing, it is arguably the worst writing I've ever seen in my life. Like from a video game, yeah. It is so bad. It's a role-playing game. I mean, certainly I've seen worse writing, honestly, right? But not in like an actual JRPG, you know? It's supposed to be a Japanese role-playing game with a lot of storyline, you know, season art, you know, this all very good art and so on. And it's actually like a lot of characters and depth and so on. But no, you're playing as the most evil protagonist ever. He's so dislikable too. Like I said, every person basically disagrees with him. And he's just like, shut up, I'll do it anyway. You're like, why? And it's never motivated, you know. The only motivation is that he's like, no, but this is not our world, so let's go back home or something. But it's just like, why do you want to go back home for, right? People keep asking him, why do you want to go back home for? And he's just like, I don't know, I'm from Earth, I'm gonna be a nerd, right? He's like a fast. It's crazy. Anyway, guys, I hope you liked the video. Please subscribe, press the like button, right? Yeah, again, I've been thinking about this video game for years, right? And it's been nagging me every now and then. And I thought about it earlier this week, and I was like, you know what? I need to make a video. And someone need to say it, man. Marche, the worst protagonist ever. He's also probably the worst JRPG protagonist ever, right, in that sense, too. Especially in how the game keeps pretending that you're the good guy. But everyone that plays the game is like, you're definitely the bad guy. You're definitely a villain. Like, but somewhat the game pretends that you're the good guy. Even though everyone's like, please don't hurt me, brother. Bah, shut up. Yeah, you're like, okay. Like, that's basically the video game. You're like, I'm definitely playing as the bad guy, right? But the game keeps like trying to pretend that you're playing as the good guy, but it never makes any sense, and that makes it kind of ridiculous too. It's like if it's like the game has zero, you know, self-insight. You're like, I'm clearly not the good guy. I'm clearly a bad person here. But the game is like, no, we are the good guys. We're killing everyone because it's the right thing to do, right? Yeah, it's like, and also you kill a lot of people in the game. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of played out as a guild war, so that maybe they don't die, they go to jail instead or something, right? It's like kind of really weird. But it feels like you kill a lot of people too in all these wars, right? But anyway, guys, please subscribe, hit the like button, and have a great day.